A country overview of Singapore. Geographical considerations. Land. The surface area of Singapore is roughly 275 square miles, which is about the size of Rhode Island. Singapore consists of one 30-mile-long island surrounded by 62 smaller islands. The island is flat with more than half of mainland Singapore only 50 feet above sea level. Bukit Timah Hill, the highest natural point in Singapore at 545 feet, stands in the middle of the island. Population and country borders. Singapore has a population of 6,042,942, which has more than doubled since 1980. With a population density of 22,254 people per square mile, Singapore is one of the most crowded islands in the world. Neighboring Singapore are Malaysia to the north and Indonesia to the south. Climate and natural resources. Singapore has a typically tropical climate with high humidity and temperatures between 73 and 91 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and raining an average of 171 days a year. There are two monsoon seasons, one from December to March and the second from June to September. Singapore is a city-state lacking in land area and is not rich in natural resources. Though once almost entirely covered in rainforest, 95% have been cut down to build bigger cities, leaving no natural forests remaining. Physical infrastructure. Roads, highways, railways, airports, and ports. Singapore features 1,940 miles of highly maintained, well-developed highways, 99% of which are paved. Spanning the island are 6 MRT lines with over 140 stations that transport 3 million riders daily, in addition to 2 LRT lines with more than 40 stations, transporting another 200,000 commuters. Changi Airport, serving more than 90 airlines, was ranked the 5th busiest international airport in 2023, in addition to being named the world's best airport for a record 12 times. PSA Corporation Limited and Jurong Port are the two main commercial ports, both of which can accommodate all vessel types, including container ships, bulk carriers, ro-ro ships, cargo freighters, coasters, and lighters. Communications infrastructure. Newspaper, radio, television, and internet. Founded in 1845 and having 1.34 million readers, the Straits Times is the most widely read newspaper in Singapore and has been recognized as one of the outstanding English-language newspapers of the Far East. MediaCorp introduced broadcast radio in 1936, then pioneered television in 1963. Operating a suite of TV channels, radio stations, and multiple digital platforms, MediaCorp is the largest content creator and national media network, reaching 98% of Singapore in 4 languages. Singtel launched the first public internet access service in 1994 before broadband was launched in 1998. Today, Singapore has the fastest fixed broadband connectivity in the world and the highest penetration rates, with more than 9 of 10 residential households having a broadband connection. Overall assessment. Factors that help Singapore do business internationally are their strategic location and established infrastructure, including the second busiest port in the world and fastest internet, in addition to spectacular airport, subway, and highway systems. The modern design of Singapore has capabilities to meet the growing demands of businesses. Factors that hinder Singapore is the fact that their economic success has been built on human capital and strategic location rather than an abundance of natural resources, which requires reliance upon external sources for essentials like water and energy. As well, their high population density can contribute to limited resources. Cultural considerations, demographics, population, age structure, and composition. Singapore's current population is 6,042,942, a 0.63% increase from 2023. The median age is 41.8 years, with an age structure as follows: 0 to 14, 12.8%, 15 to 24, 15.01%, 25 to 54, 50.73%, 55 to 64, 10.58%, and 65 plus, 10.89%. Singapore is 100% urban. Ethnic groups and languages. Singapore consists of three main ethnic groups: Chinese, 74.3%, Malay, 13.5%, Indian, 9%, and then other, 3.2%. The national language of Singapore is Malay, however, the most spoken language is Mandarin. Tamil and English are also commonly spoken languages. Life expectancy, poverty, and education. The life expectancy in Singapore is 84 years, a 0.15% increase from 2023. 1 in 10 families are low income. As of December 2022, 41.6% of the labor force had a university degree or higher. The literacy rate in 2020 was 97.13%. Cultural considerations, culture. Religion. Singaporean religions include Buddhism, 26%, Muslim, 18%, Christianity, 17%, Hinduism, 8%, traditional religions like Taoism and Confucianism, 6%, and other, 4%. 22% of the population does not identify with any religion. Customs and courtesies. When meeting, formally or informally, shake hands firmly with all. A slight bow is considered respectful. It is important to remove one's shoes when entering someone's house or visiting a temple or mosque. Never point at someone or something with a finger. Instead, just raise your hand for indication. Never touch a person's head. It is considered sacred. Spitting and littering is illegal. Chewing gum is banned to maintain cleanliness. Business attire. Men should wear suits to all business occasions, including luncheons. Women may wear a pantsuit or blouse and skirt. Simple, clear, dark colors and a neat appearance are valued above bold fashion statements. Business protocol, gifts. Do not offer gifts or souvenirs during an initial meeting. It is best to send one after, to show appreciation or gratitude. Do not offer unwrapped gifts and use both hands to hand the gift over. If you receive a gift, wait until the person has left the room to open it. Business protocol, meetings. Arrive early to meetings. Like gifts, business cards should be presented with both hands and never write on someone's business card, as it is disrespectful. Treat elders with additional respect, paying extra attention to them during meetings. Do not speak out of turn without first raising your hand, but avoid interrupting frequently. Do not tap your feet, show your sole, or use your foot to point. Be direct when speaking and get to the point, but expect slow, drawn-out negotiations while the relationship is being established. Role of family. In Singapore, the interests of the family supersede the interests of the individual, and loyalty is shown to fellow family members. Extended family traditionally live with the immediate family, with the father being the patriarch. Elders are consulted on all family matters, and parental control over children extends well into adulthood. In recent years, there has been a significant increase in people living alone and couples deciding not to have children. Overall assessment. Factors that help Singapore do business internationally is that they are very relationship-oriented in their business practices and want to build the trust and loyalty needed to sustain long-term relationships and future business. Singaporeans have a strong work ethic, and businesswomen do not report having issues working in Singapore. Factors that hinder Singapore in conducting business internationally is that their negotiations take place at a much slower pace. Because business culture is exceedingly competitive, foreigners wanting to do business with Singapore must make sure they stand out. Political and legal systems. Independence, government, and leaders. Singapore gained independence from the British Empire in 1963. They briefly joined the Federation of Malaysia, breaking away to become a fully independent state on August 9, 1965. Singapore is a parliamentary republic led by Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, supported by 18 other cabinet members. Political risk and currency. Singapore has a very low political risk, the lowest political risk in Asia. The official currency is the Singapore dollar, also known as the Sing. Banknotes are printed in denominations from $2 to $10,000, and coins are minted from 1 cent to $5. Currency is issued by Singapore's central bank, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, formed in 1985. Corruption. The 2023 Transparency International Corruption Perceptions Index ranks Singapore the 5th least corrupt country in the world out of 180 countries ranked. Singapore is the only Asian country ranked in the top 10 with a score of 83. Current political issues. Singapore has recently been involved in a rare corruption case involving a senior politician, now former cabinet minister S. Iswaran, who is alleged to have received more than 3,800 Singapore dollars, about 2,083,000 worth of gifts from Malaysian billionaire Ong Beng Sang. Iswaran appeared in court denying all 27 charges before resigning from his position. 8 additional charges were later added. He is the first cabinet minister Singapore has investigated for corruption since 1986. Legal system. As a former British colony, the legal system in Singapore is based on the English common law, meaning laws are created by judgments and handed down by the courts. Their constitution ensures fundamental rights for citizens, setting forth the framework for the 3 branches of the Singapore government, legislative, executive, and judiciary, responsible for creating and enforcing laws. The Supreme Court is comprised of the High Court and Court of Appeal, which hear both civil and criminal cases. State courts are either district courts or magistrate courts, both of which hear civil and criminal cases, with magistrate courts hearing the lower value civil cases and less serious criminal cases. Overall assessment. Singapore's political climate favors outside business by supporting predominantly open investment policies and a strong free market economy, while actively managing and sustaining their economic development and enforcing their strict anti-corruption laws. Their government actively promotes the country as a research and development and innovation center for businesses by offering tax incentives, research grants, and partnership opportunities with domestic research agencies. Deemed the least bureaucratic country in Asia, Singapore's legal system has received global recognition for its efficiency and integrity as they continue to grow to maintain relevance in the current cultural, economic, and commercial climate through common laws and practices from other mature legal systems. Singapore's political climate can hinder outside business due to its strict laws and regulations for businesses. It can be hard for companies to follow all of the rules, especially if they are not completely familiar with Singapore's laws. Additionally, Singapore has been criticized for its treatment of migrant workers and restrictions on freedom of expression and assembly, which could be a concern for businesses wanting to operate in the country. Trade barriers. Tariffs and other trade barriers. Singapore is generally a free port and open economy. It applies a most favored nation zero duty to almost 100% of its tariff lines. Lines with non-zero duties are for certain alcoholic beverages. All U.S. exports to Singapore are duty-free under the FTA. Though the U.S. imports are duty-free, the U.S. faces challenges with a tiered motorcycle operator licensing system based on engine displacement, road tax based on engine size, and additional registration fees that discourage the import of large motorcycles from the United States. Singapore restricts the import and sale of non-medicinal chewing gum and levies high excise taxes on items such as distilled spirits and wine, tobacco products, motor vehicles, and petroleum. Restricted products. In Singapore, special import licenses are required for things such as strategic items, hazardous chemicals, radioactive materials, films and videos, video games, firearms and ammunition, agricultural biotechnology products, food made from agricultural biotechnology products, medical devices, prescription and over-the-counter drugs, certain vitamins, cosmetics, and skincare products. Prohibited products. Prohibited items include lighters in the shape of pistols or revolvers, firecrackers, handcuffs, shell casings, silencers, non-medicinal chewing gum, rhinoceros horns, endangered species of animals or products derived from the body of said animals, and chewing tobacco. Trade agreements. Part of 27 implemented agreements, Singapore places highest priority on the multilateral trading system that is the World Trade Organization. Singapore is an initiator and founding member of the Asian-Europe meeting. Other trade agreements include the Asian-Pacific Economic Cooperation, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, the U.S.-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, and the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Economical considerations. GDP, GDP per capita, and labor force. The GDP of Singapore is $525.23 billion in US dollars. The GDP growth rate is 2.1%. The GDP per capita is $88.45 thousand in US dollars. In 2023, the labor force participation rate was 68.6%, with the highest participation rate amongst those 30 to 34 years old. Over the past 10 years, there's been an increase in the participation rate of individuals 65 and older. Inflation, unemployment, and trading partners. Singapore has an inflation rate of 3%. Their unemployment rate is 1.9%. Major trading partners in terms of exports include China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the United States. Major import trading partners are China, Malaysia, South Korea, and the United States. The bulk of both exports and imports include integrated circuits, refined petroleum, gold, and machinery having individual functions. Natural resources and major industries. Singapore has no natural resources to offer, instead having a strategic location, deep-water port, and limited reserves of oil and natural gas. The manufacturing industry includes electronics, chemicals, biomedical sciences, logistics, and transport engineering. The financial services industry facilitates the transfer of knowledge, processes, technology, and skills between global, regional, and domestic markets. Economic aid received. As a high-income country, Singapore is not eligible for official development assistance. Singapore receives a small amount of development finance exclusively in the form of loans from the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. From 2015 to 2021, the total amount was just more than 4.4 million US dollars, averaging 734,000 annually. Major opportunities for investment. Major opportunities for investment. Singapore acts as a great hub to do business. They attract substantial foreign investment in the manufacture of petrochemicals, electronics, pharmaceuticals, machinery and equipment, and their services, which include financial, trade, and business. Singapore is poised to attract future investment opportunities in digital innovation, pharmaceutical manufacturing, sustainable development, and cybersecurity. Human resources. Workers needed and education required. Singapore currently has a high demand for workers in certain areas, including customer service representatives, e-commerce specialists, teachers, sales executives, and human resource specialists. 30% of Singaporean workers hold a university degree, while another 15% have a diploma or other professional qualification. A degree is not a main consideration for employers when it comes to hiring, as they emphasize skills, performance, and contributions to society over paper qualifications. Obstacles and barriers. Obstacles. Finding the right talent at the right time. Quotas on foreign talent, as Singapore must remain within the Ministry of Manpower guidelines on foreign talent versus local Singapore talent. The MOM guidelines are so strict that approvals for employment passes have been increasingly rejected. A lack of gender diversity partially due to unconscious bias, not realizing diversity is part of the company culture. Obstacles and barriers. Barriers. Negative employer attitudes and age discrimination. Per the Ministry of Manpower, age discrimination is one of the top forms of discrimination faced by job seekers. Inflexible working arrangements or long working hours. Age-related health issues and physical limitations. Limited availability of suitable job opportunities. Labor supply. All persons 15 and older can be divided into two categories: those in the labor force, or economically active, and those not in the labor force or economically inactive. Singapore relies heavily on a large multicultural foreign labor force that includes Chinese, Malay, and Indian workers and expatriates from all over the world. In 2017, there were 296,700 migrant workers. The Singaporean government is taking steps to reduce its reliance on foreign labor. Market entry strategies. Wholly owned subsidiary. Pros: access to more resources, low tax liability, and limited liability for owners. Cons: more taxes on the parent company, legal restrictions, and reduced privacy. Foreign acquisition. Pros: reduced entry barriers, new competencies and resources, and access to capital. Cons: culture clash, poorly matched businesses, and brand damage. Joint venture. Pros: access to new markets and distribution networks, sharing of risk and cost, and access to new knowledge or expertise. Cons: culture clash, conflict of control, trade disclosure. Strategic alliance. Pros: gain new clients, expanded opportunities and revenue, limited risk. Cons: potential communication challenges, inequality in benefit earnings, and challenging alliance management. Franchising. Pros: comes with a ready-made business plan, easier to secure financing, and less risky than independent businesses. Cons: may have high startup costs, less flexibility, and franchise fees can add up. Licensing. Pros: increase profit without cost risk, increase brand recognition, expand your market internationally. Cons: risk of intellectual property theft, loss of control over brand, no guarantee of income. Exports and imports. Pros: it's the easiest and simplest method of entry. There's less investment, better control over business. Cons: regulations, extra costs such as customs, and domestic competition. Preferred market entry strategy. Many U.S. exporters are successful in the use of direct exporting through the aid of agents or distributors to serve Singapore and other Southeast Asian markets. Singapore firms are aggressive when it comes to representing new products and tend to respond eagerly to new opportunities.